the fact of the matter is that Samuel Alito doesn't care what your opinion is. He doesn't care what ethics dictate. He doesn't care about probity and rectitude as qualities. What he cares about is grievance, and his arrogance insulates him utterly from any shame about the abdication of his oath. The issue at hand is an appeasement issue. What Samuel Alito is saying is, I can do anything I want and you can't stop me. He is at the tip of a new spear pointed at the hearts of American democracy. It is laced with arrogance. It says, you cannot stop us. You cannot stop me. 166 days remain. It is May 23rd, and this is the warning. Another Alito flag, another Thursday in MAGA America. Nearly 20 years have passed since John Roberts sat in a Senate confirmation hearing, being questioned as he was being considered to become Chief Justice of the United States. During that hearing, John Roberts talked eloquently about the rule of law, and he talked about its importance as being fundamental to democracy and its sustainment. He made the point that the Soviet Constitution inherently had all the same rights that were contained in the American Constitution, but there was no tradition of a rule of law. There was no independent judiciary to sustain freedom because they could contain despotism through the supremacy of the rule of law.
The difference between our system and our Constitution and the Soviet Constitution that President Reagan used to talk about, it has wonderful rights in it too. They didn't mean a thing because there was not an independent Supreme Court, an independent judiciary to enforce those rights. Sure. We do have that, and that's the reason that we have been able to make progress in the area of rights and not had just empty paper promises.
Now, we'll talk about Samuel Alito in just a second, but the issue at hand is not Samuel Alito's disgrace. It is the Chief Justice's appeasement of the sedition that has been openly embraced by both Clarence Thomas and Justice Alito that has decimated the credibility of the United States Supreme Court, that is now the defining legacy of the Roberts Court. It is the collapse of trust and the illegitimacy of the court in the eyes of multitudes of millions of Americans. And this has occurred through small appeasements and large appeasements. And they have led to a moment of crisis. There is no symbol that is more powerful, more potent, more unifying than the American flag. There are traditions around the American flag. The American flag is never lowered or dipped towards a person, another nation. There have always been messages and meanings in the American flag, whether it is the Don't Tread on Me Gadsden flag, another revolutionary flag, the first naval flag of the United States, or dozens of others. The meaning of the flags is always about defiance, and they link back to the cause of freedom. Now, there is a symbol of oppression that is homegrown in the United States. It's this flag, the Confederate flag. Perhaps the greatest disgrace of January 6th was not that the insurrectionists shat on the floor of the United States Senate and House of Representatives while urinating on the walls. It was that this flag was carried through the rotunda of the United States Capitol building. This flag of evil and hate and slavery finally breached the United States Capitol 158 years after the Battle of Gettysburg. It made it and was paraded under the dome that Abraham Lincoln insisted be constructed during the height of Civil War, because upon victory, government of the people, by the people, for the people would need a place under which to reconsecrate. He talked about this at the Gettysburg Address. He talked about that the Union would not perish from this earth. He talked about it, that it could survive this fragile experiment. Now, when Martin Luther King came to the Lincoln Memorial in 1963, he marched under the banner of the American flag. It was the symbol of the civil rights movement, the American flag. The symbol of Jim Crow was the Confederate flag. The flag of the people who beat John Lewis and bloodied old ladies and children and teenagers on the Edmund Pettus Bridge is the Confederate flag. And the Confederate flag has always had adjacent flags. Everybody knows what it's like to have something stolen from them. Things get stolen and taken all the time. MAGA fundamentally is a philosophy of capricious taking. And one of the things that MAGA does that Trump understands instinctually is how to take. And his movement has taken symbols, powerful, meaningful symbols, and corrupted them, repurposed them, reassigned them. There is no symbol except for the American flag itself that cannot be co-opted and stolen and repurposed because there is an absence of knowledge about the meaning of these potent symbols. And so when Samuel Alito flew an inverted American flag above his home, it was a declaration of support for the action around which millions of flags around the country were flown in inverted sympathy with, which was the assault on the peaceful transition of power, sustained by 1,000 lies told by an American president who assaulted the cornerstone of the country's existence, which is the peaceful transition of power after the American people decide who will be assigned lawful authority to execute the laws after an election process has played out fairly and all of the votes have been counted. Samuel Alito flew a flag of sedition, of violence. That is the plain meaning in January of 2021, when he desecrated his oath, his duty, his responsibility to the country by making common cause with a new Confederacy, a resurgent fascism, and making a declaration of partisanship that defiles the concepts of judicial independence. It is shameful. It is awful, but it gets worse. Now it has been discovered that at the Jersey Shore, another flag has risen above an Alito household. When the first flag was discovered, among the concoctions of excuses, one was that somehow the neighboring lawn sign that instigated Mrs. Alito to fly the inverted flag, according to the Alitos, was because of her protective instinct around the children who were at a bus stop coming home from school. Except for there were no buses and there were no children getting off of them in the middle of COVID in January in Alexandria, Virginia. So they're caught lying. What will the lie be around this? This is the appeal to heaven flag, the pine tree, a potent symbol in the Revolutionary War. Now, there are no surviving original appeal to heaven flags. They don't exist in private collections, but we know and remember what they look like and what they mean. They were a maritime flag also. Here it is flying above Alito's home. He has removed the American flag from the singular position it should occupy at the top of the mast. The American flag that should be there has been pulled down. If you have a mast to fly flags like that in front of your home, you should understand the basic protocols, of course. And Alito does. It is a purposeful action. Now, is Samuel Alito a historian of maritime flags and the U.S. Revolution? Or is he an extremist political partisan making a statement? And of course, it is the latter. And the statement he is making amplifies the statement he has already made, which is that I stand with MAGA, I stand with Trump, I am part of a cause. And this is a desecrative act of the highest magnitude in the United States of America when applied against the commitment any justice should have towards the rule of law from the bench of the nation's high court. Appalling doesn't begin to describe it. The fact of the matter is that Samuel Alito doesn't care what your opinion is. He doesn't care what ethics dictate. He doesn't care about probity and rectitude as qualities. What he cares about is grievance, and his arrogance insulates him utterly from any shame about the abdication of his oath. The issue at hand is an appeasement issue. It is Chief Justice Roberts who requires some steel in his spine at long last. This behavior cannot be abided because the Supreme Court has lost its legitimacy. It has lost its legitimacy primarily because of the corruption, incandescent, intellectual, moral corruption of two men, Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. The Alito court and the Thomas court and the Roberts court are all the same thing. Appeasement of the lowest common denominator, of political insanity, of a wanton frontal assault on the reputation of the court is as despicable as the assault itself. The absence of heart in defense of a vital institution is tragic. And John Roberts promised when he was being confirmed to defend the integrity of the institution. This is a moment of national defilement. Each day, in some wretched manner, the MAGA cause defiles through acts of demagoguery, big and small, through shameless panderings and dishonesty, through a rhetoric of division, a tolerance for hate and extremism. A terrible malevolence has arisen, promising retribution, promising revenge, promising punishment for dissent, for speech, for opposition to cruelty. All of this has come to pass because the people who should have stepped up and stood up, backed up, and sat down and lay down and let themselves be rolled over. Americans are a brave people, and a fundamental proposition has been laid out. What Samuel Alito is saying is, I can do anything I want and you can't stop me. He is at the tip of a new spear pointed at the hearts of American democracy. It is laced with arrogance. It says, you cannot stop us. You cannot stop me. What Samuel Alito has done is make assertions. And his assertion is, I'm not a justice of the United States Supreme Court anymore. I'm a revolutionary in a robe who will strike for that cause within the United States Supreme Court. And the Chief Justice isn't tough enough, isn't strong enough, isn't dedicated enough, isn't committed enough to put a stop to it. And neither, apparently, are the other justices. Comity, friendliness, collaboration should not supersede patriotism. When the integrity of the court is under direct assault and its legitimacy is in tatters and burning as we speak. Sedition is in the air, literally, over Samuel Alito's house. You peel the heaven flag, flying as it is at the top of the mast, isn't an icon of the Revolutionary War, but rather a symbol of, I love Trump. That's what it means. That's what it asserts. It is a declaration for MAGA, a declaration for the January 6th insurrectionists. It is an assertion that the 2020 election, which was the fairest and most honest and cleanest in American history, was stolen. It is a promise made but not yet kept that millions of Black votes will not be counted next time. Though the attempt was close, it was not successful last time. Justice Alito is saying, trust me, we'll take care of it. It is a level of judicial wretchedness and disgrace unprecedented in the modern history of the United States. I'm Steve Schmidt. This is The Warning, and I invite you to subscribe on our Substack, on our YouTube channel. Follow us. Welcome to the community.